Good morning, Vietnam.
Mm.
Good morning, Vietnam.
Oh
Marlin.
my God! What am I? Jesus, John, you look like Phantom of the Opera on mushrooms.
Well, I'm here to amuse you, Marlin. I live for that and our fans. Happy Mardi Gras, by the way.
Happy Mardi
I did,
Gras.
I didn't want you to forget that that's what's happening right now in many quarters of the world, as is the beginning of Ramadan. And
Yeah,
I believe there's another celebration that you've been witnessing and taking part in. What might that be?
yes, I just got to celebrate Lunar New Year's Eve last night in Saigon,
Tell me
and
about it.
it was fabulous. Oh gosh, when we do um, New Year's, it's like one evening drinking and fireworks. When they do Tet in Vietnam, it like lasts for weeks leading up to it. And the whole city is decorated. There's big displays. And of course, this is the year of the fire horse, happens once every 60 years. So there's all of these displays set up. I went to a park that had been festooned with festival ornamentation, a fabulous bonsai
Hmm.
exhibition, statuary, flowers, and then later in the evening, I went to go see some fireworks. And nobody does fireworks better than the Asians. Well, don't tell that to the Carucci families and the Italians.
Oh, the Garushis. Yeah, I won't.
Yeah,
My lips are
yeah,
sealed.
it was fireworks were originally just gold. It was the Italians who were the first ones who started adding color to fireworks. So that's why they have a long history of making fireworks.
So this is the Lunar New Year celebrated throughout Asia because I think it's commonly associated with China, right? In the U.S., it tends to be
They
a
call it
Chinese
Chinese New Year.
Chinese
Yeah,
New Year celebration.
yeah. So Chinese New Year celebration. So here on odd days, we like to touch on what was the odd thing that you just recently heard. I'll go first.
You go first.
The odd
Okay.
thing that the odd thing I heard was RFK snorting coke off of toilet seats, and I
That's
guess his hand must have been covered in blood from roadkill because
right
usually
from
people like
Roadkill.
put it in this little divot here and do it that way. So I don't know why he's doing it off of a
I think
toilet
I think
seat.
his hand being bloody for picking up Roadkill and leaving it in Central Park probably was the culprit. It was probably about the same era, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah. What was the odd thing that you heard?
Well, or saw. Last end of last week, I tuned in to the blonde Barbie AG's burn book session in on Capitol Hill. Right? I mean, it was just so awful, and I try to imagine Merrick Garland or these kind of Bill Barr or any of these characters in history that have served in that office just going off and challenging members of Congress based on her little background profile of saying, "Oh, you're a washed up loser, lawyer, politician, wannabe," all the while refusing to look at the victims right behind her and just being a total clown show. But I think
Bondi's
RFK might top it. I'm not sure, which is
blonde bad bitching Bondi's burn book.
basically the Lunar New Year is not just the Chinese New Year. And speaking of China, I have just really been struck recently by how quickly the Chinese government and its industry are pivoting towards renewables, solar, wind, and electric vehicles. I work in the EV charging space and including with heavy duty trucks. And we have maybe 0.5% of our trucks, heavy duty class 8 semi sized trucks are electric at most. Guess what percent, Marlin, of trucks sold in China in December were electric, heavy duty class 8 trucks?
In China.
Yes,
I have no idea. Elucidate.
50 over 50%.
What?
Yes, right?
To our what percent?
Oh, less than 1%. It's
Oh
minuscule.
my God.
And they're exporting solar around the world. I mean, they're not obviously not perfect. They have still have a lot of coal capacity, but they're increasing, on the margins as they're adding new, generation on. They're turning to renewables and dispatching those first. They do have coal as a backup, and they still have too much coal, but at least they are taking conscious moves to go in that direction. And I don't know if it's because of a climate commitment or just owning that economic space, or because it works, it's more efficient. But either way, I'm impressed by the speed they're going. Our tech assistant was I was celebrating President's Day, and by the way, in your history of celebrating President's Day, have you ever, which was, of course, yesterday. But have you ever celebrated in a way other than just realizing, for example, a 25% retail discount, President's Day sale, for example?
No, I didn't know anything else happened other than the 25% discount. You would think that there would be some kind of a documentary or special that would cover all of the presidents that we've had in the United States since day one. Even if it's a cute little TikTok video, and having AI having different presidents from different eras, like Grover Cleveland doing a dance off with McKinley, or speaking of Bush, he was the one who started all of this craziness with the oil being merged with politics. And I did an AI search. What would have been different if Al Gore had been elected? And AI came back, said, "Oh, we'd be much further along with renewables, and that the trajectory of climate change would be much different." And now here, Trump did what? He, in the 2009
Yeah,
ruling.
the endangerment finding, which is and that was upheld at the Supreme Court, which is giving the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, authority to regulate greenhouse gases as an endangerment to the climate. And of
Which they
course,
are.
you're right. And so this was upheld by the Supreme Court, and it's kind of the foundation that has allowed success, the Obama and Biden especially, to propagate regulations to limit greenhouse gases from coal-fired power plants, from cars, from trucks, from methane pipes. So they basically move to revoke science, to kill a scientific finding, while the evidence of climate change mounts with, global temperatures have just skyrocketing the last 3 years. We're seeing large sections of the West without hardly any snow. We're seeing record droughts and floods. So, I mean, it's really getting to a crisis. Threats of glaciers melting, and enormous rising sea levels. So it would seem that if you gave a shit about your kids and the future generations, or your niece or your nephew or anybody, a grandchild, if you really cared about them, just like people set up college savings account or do what they can to get them off on a good footing, you would err on the side of let's do what they're doing in Europe, what they're doing in China, for that matter, what they're doing in Canada, and make a full commitment to climate action, as in a pivot to clean energy and electric vehicles, like we saw in the Paris 2015 climate accord. But instead, while you were celebrating Lunar New Year here, and while the Chinese are doing what they're doing, Marlin, we had last week, Trump not only moved to revoke the endangerment finding regulating greenhouse gases, they ordered the Pentagon to source power from coal-fired power plants. They Trump appointees on the Tennessee Valley Authority extended the expiration date for coal plants. They went to put roadblocks on a deployment of EV charging stations. They've rescinded loans and grants for solar and wind. They've killed offshore wind projects that were already close to completion. I mean, it is just a complete subservience to fossil fuel interests. And I think it also has become this cultural issue, right? Where fossil fuel energy has become the red energy, right? It's the Republican energy to be, anti clean energy, while which is essentially flying in the face of science, flying in the face of the rest of the world, and going against our kids' long-term interests.
So here's a couple of acronyms to describe that. The mean, angry, gaslighting asshole is making America gasp again.
Yes, making America gasp again. What do you think of all this? I mean, as you see it from, I mean, you're close to China. I mean, I think other countries in Asia are making their own moves in this direction.
The Vietnamese government is going to start mandating that gas-powered scooters will be eliminated from Saigon, possibly also, and I think also Hanoi. They're two major cities, both of which are larger than New York, so that all the scooters transition to electric scooters. And that'll cut down tremendously on the amount of emissions. This provides the public the opportunity to take guidance from the government, which is protecting the citizens. And my metric on how well a government is working is how happy the people are. If the people are happy, the government's doing something right. And the people in Vietnam are very happy. They're just happy folk. And they know that the government's looking out for them.
A high smiles per capita ratio, perhaps.
They greet me with great kindness and openness. And I asked one of them, how can you be so nice to me given what Americans did? And their response was, oh, that was then. We want to know how you're going to treat us now.
You're in the moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know what you have when you have 100 ICE agents up to their neck in sand?
What do you have, Marlin?
Not enough sand.
Right?
So I read that Gavin Newsom is cutting a deal with the UK. Trump rails against that because his buddies are all about oil.
They gave him like $1 billion in his campaign.
Yes. He's clearly just simply the most bribable president we've ever had in American history.
And meanwhile, pissing off all our allies, including of all countries, Canada, right? And you saw that Canada recently was had its own trade pact with China, right?
Yes. Yes, I was watching the fireworks last night and I was sitting next to a couple of Canadians. We got into a conversation before the explosions started to happen.
And
they were very kind. The Canadians are very kind people. Can't understand why America's doing what it's doing. And I had to remind them, it's like, yeah, but that's just a slice of America. That's not really America. Did you hear that among independent voters who are 18 to 29, there's a 50-point swing away from Trump? A 50-point swing. Never happened before. So his legacy is starting to collapse already. And that's the nature of a cult. It needs a charismatic leader. And once he goes, no one's going to be able to fill his space. What I don't understand is so many Republicans go, well, I can't speak against Trump because he'll primary me or put somebody running against me. But can you think of any candidate that Trump backed that won? I can't think of any. Everybody that he backs loses.
One might say he's a loser.
One might say.